new segments and the new short, and had a good time.
That's cool. Now, so the segments, you did pre-record those. You guys weren't dressed up and stuff on Turkey Day.
No, that would be a real bummer if we just had to hang around on Thanksgiving all day in costume waiting for our.
And if we had to just do it in one take, you don't want to see that.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
We love you too much to expose y'all to that.
Yeah.
No, we recorded it. I mean, we can say this. We recorded it, I think, last Monday, so like almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
on the 16th. And we started at 7:00 a.m. our time because we had East Coast, the Midwest,
Central, and then you're everybody across the country.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah, we're really scattered.
We really are. So we were thankful that everyone at Alternaversal was gracious enough to wait until 10 o'clock their time for us to start at 7 a.m. Because Jonah and I especially would have been like, oh boy, too early. So yeah, we recorded most of that on Monday, and then I think they did a couple things on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple pickups on Tuesday. Connor, who plays Tom Servo in the live tour and for yesterday's Turkey Day segments, had to bow out early because he had to go to play practice.
Yeah, he's got a gig.
He's a theater nerd.
Hey.
But we had everybody basically set up shots in their own houses. Mm-hmm. So they were sort of their own cinematographers and wrangled whatever technical equipment they had to do things. And then it's just like you're seeing now. We all hopped on a Zoom call, and Matt McGinnis, my co-writer and the producer over at Alternaversal, was manning things and recording his Zoom call. And we just ran through all the segments and managed to knock it out over the course of a fairly long shooting day.
And Tim Ryder directed us, which was a first for me.
And I really let her have it too. Like I pretty much gave her line readings because she is a diva.
Yeah.
Yeah, but speaking of divas, and because I'm going to lead with my question, of course, first.
Sure.
So the folks in the chat, I know some people did submitted some questions beforehand. I know one or two of them there at least are in the chat. So I'm thinking, since we are kind of a smaller group, if the folks who are here, I'd throw them up on camera so that you guys can see each other. Hopefully that doesn't become too unruly. I got Steve, he's helping me out over there. So, but first I'm going to ask my question.
You know, it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Fine.
Thank you. I'm going to ask my question first, Rebecca. Who is your favorite RuPaul girl?
Ooh. This is a tough one. Off the top of my head, Latrice Royale.
Yes, ma'am. Make them eat it. Okay. Now I'll move on.
But Jinx Monsoon is a very, very close second.
She's just so talented. I mean, my mom got to go to one of her shows up in Seattle, and she was just blown away. Actually, I got to see her live too. Anyway, I won't go into that. But thank you. Yes, we are.
Thank you for asking me.
RuPaul's Drag Race fans. If y'all didn't,
that could be its entirely own Q&A.
Yes.
It could. Again, Christmas. We'll come back.
Right.
Steve, I know you had some questions, and we kind of covered it when we were talking with Zach, but if you want to go ahead and go.
I'll ask the same question again. Rebecca, you premiered, you were a part of the Chicago premiere. You were a big secret as the voice of Gypsy coming into Mystery Science Theater in the revival. What was that like to be revealed as the star from Chicago, and we all just melted at your beautiful Midwestern voice?
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. I mean, I still can't believe it. It's still like, it is just so good to be true that I still kind of have to pinch myself. It was amazing. I did not know I was going to voice her until July of 2016. Is that when we shot?
Yes.
So we shot season 11 like end of September, beginning of October 2016. I initially was brought on as a writer, and then at one point Joel was like, hey, do you think you want to be on camera? Because you kind of look like Mary Jo, and I have this clone idea. So like, would you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, Joel, I'd do it. And then he was like, do you think Tim would want to like be on camera too? I've got this idea. We didn't know then it was going to be Boneheads, but so I knew that, and then I wrote on 2 episodes of season 11. Still didn't know. And then about a month and a half before we were shooting season 11, he asked me to voice Gypsy. And I was in an IKEA in Texas when he called. And I was visiting my sister and my little nieces. So of course we go to IKEA. And I'll never forget, I had to walk outside of the store and it was on this outdoor furniture patio setup thing. So, all these people are walking in and out of an IKEA, and Joel was like, would you want to voice Gypsy? And I just started crying. And he's like, well, you can think about it. And I was like, well, yeah, I want, yes, please. Yes. And he's like, well, think about it and get back to me tomorrow. I was like, Joel, I will call you tomorrow, but my answer will still be yes. So yeah, it was amazing that he had asked me to do that. I gave him probably 4 or 5 different voice options because I didn't know if he wanted her to sound a little, I have a naturally low voice, as you all can hear. I wasn't sure if he wanted kind of that falsetto-y effect that she had in, the old series. And of the 4 different takes that I'd given him, he said he wanted me. He said, I want Rebecca Hansen's voice, but like a happy Rebecca Hansen. And I was like, what is happiness, Joel? What does happiness mean? And he had no answer. He just said, oh, Rebecca. So yeah, the fact that he wanted, not a character voice of mine, but mine was even more. So it was pretty amazing. It was also a little ulcer inducing because I couldn't say anything to anybody in regard to any of our involvement, but the Gypsy thing was the hardest to keep in because that voicing a character is such a dream of mine anyway. So once the Chicago premiere happened, it was really nice, but they still didn't let me post anything about it. And I still couldn't say anything about it. And some people in New York and then some people in LA found out and people were contacting me and I'm like, I can't say anything because they haven't given me the go ahead. But yeah, the premiere in Chicago was phenomenal. It was at the Music Box Theater, which is one of my favorite places in the world. And I will say this, friends, if you were there and you saw the organ player ahead of time, that was because I had asked if I told Leslie and Ivan and Joel, I was like, hey, there is an organ player. Can we get him for this event? Please. And they were like, what? I was like, get the organ player beforehand. And so they did, and you're welcome. Thank
you, Rebecca. That was quite a moment because yes, those of us who are around Chicago, we know the Music Box as the place to go for the kinds of movies that we like. And yes, the element of that old-fashioned organ and that guy just is phenomenal musician.
Yeah. Because I go to the Sound of Music sing-along, or I used to, every Thanksgiving, and he plays beforehand. And it's just amazing. So I was really thankful that he was available. I think they were trying to get, I don't know what kind of happened, but they were trying to get him to play the various MST3K theme songs. And for whatever reason, he was not allowed to. And the night that when I found that out, and as things were happening, I'm like, it's probably good I don't hear the actual MST3K music because I would just die. Because it was really surreal to, like Zach had said earlier, that was the first time I had watched an MST3K movie in a theater with that many people. So, and then the fact that we were in it, it was just almost too much to handle because it was so wonderful. What a long answer. Thank you.
I think it was probably an issue of sheet music. It's tough to find organ sheet music for an arrangement of the theme song. That's just something that doesn't get publicized a lot. I don't know why. Seems like it would be right at home in a lot of church services.
So yeah, I'm really happy he asked me, and to this day, it'll be a life highlight forever and ever.
That is so cool, and because I think again the coolest thing about you guys were fans of the show, and like when we talked with Zach, it's not Joe Schmo off the street who'd never seen the show or didn't grow up with it. Everyone involved was a fan of the show.
Yeah.
And that really, dreams come true, like you said. That is just, it's amazing. And yeah, thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Steve, did you have another question?
I've got plenty of questions. Most of them are about the Middle East, though.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Well,
wonderful.
we'll get to
I
that.
do have a question for Tim, because Rebecca mentioned the term bonehead for your character. So I want to know, what's the least offensive term for Kinga's minions? Is it boneheads? Is it the skeleton crew? Where should we
There's-
go with this?
There's no way around it. He's a bonehead. They're all boneheads. And I don't even know if they think that that's an insulting term. They're probably not smart enough to be insulted by it. But it's a lovely thing to have. I don't know if you can see, we have our chair backs behind us in
We got
frames.
them framed because that's the kind of nerds we
And
are.
it literally
Mhm.
says Tim Ryder Bonehead on there.
Okay.
So that's
So
something
that's
that
the
I can,
official term then.
that is the
Yes.
official term. And
When you
I have
mark
a father-in-law
furniture.
I have a father-in-law who's a really big fan of the show, and he is very fond of saying that his daughter's married to a bonehead.
He's like, my son-in-law is a bonehead number 1, in fact. And people are like, oh, Kevin. And he's like, no, it's in writing.
It's true. It's in the credits.
Yeah.
Zach, did you want to say that out loud?
I just said we were created to serve Kinga. We cannot be offended.
That's right.
I love that it's just the voice of Zach and we don't see him.
There he is.
Oh,
He's in the
There,
garage.
sorry.
Oh, right on.
No, I'm in the basement.
Oh,
I
hey,
have my jacket on with the patch I stole from our earlier discussion.
nice. There it is.
Dang.
Very cool. Thank you for showing us, Zach. Hey, Tim, I know
Yeah.
not this Tim, other Tim, Tim from New Jersey. Did you want to ask your question? I can unmute you if you want to ask your question, Tim. Yeah, if you are in the participating and you want to ask a question, maybe shoot Steve a message. That'd be great. So
For you.
TV's Tim, are you here with us?
Yes, I am here.
Everybody, TV's Tim, Rebecca, and also Tim, TV's Tim.
Dina Dolphin's second banana.
Yes. I'm just going to ask your question.
So, this is a question for both of you. What was your favorite memory or memories from season 11 and 12?
Great question. First of all, you're going to have to change your name. I'm so sorry. There can be only one.
Only one Tim.
There can be only one.
I love that it's TV's Tim, though.
That is fair. That's a good
Okay,
differentiation. Oh man, there were so many. There was, I will say, one of our first days of shooting, we were working on the opening sequence. We talked about it in Zach's Q&A, where he and I are pushing around this ziggurat with Felicia Day as Kinga on it, and we're working to get all that right. And in between shots, Joel said, like, "Oh, hey, we've got the orchestra recording of the closing theme. If anybody wants to hear that, can we play that? Because we were already playing the opening over the theme song, so we could hear it to record. Can we play that closing theme?" And we heard this orchestra playing the theme song that we had heard over the credits
The love
so
theme.
many times.
Yeah, so the NST3K love theme.
And I barely kept it together. It was
All
so
of us.
gorgeous. And I was looking around, and there's the Satellite of Love set right over there, and here's the Moon 13 right behind me. And it was just so surreal and amazing that I had a hard time remaining professional.
I'm gonna give 2, but it's really hard to whittle it down if that's all right. Yes, that day when we were shooting that, I think that was my 5th day on set, but it was my first day as Cynthia. So a lot of people didn't recognize me. A lot of people thought I was Mary Jo, which was great because it was like everyone had seen me just as Rebecca. But then, in fact, the first time I met Patton, he was leaving the makeup room, and I was coming in. I was already done up. Oh, I think I didn't have my hair on yet, but I had like the Cynthia makeup. And Patton was like, "Oh," I walked in the door and I was like, I'm here for whatever. And Patton's like, "Oh, Mary Jo, such a fan of yours. Like, I can't wait to work with you. This is gonna be so great." And I was like, Mr. Oswald, because I was like nerding out. I was like, "Mr. Oswald, I feel like I need to tell you, I'm Rebecca Hanson. I play Pearl's clone. My character's name is Cynthia. And I just, if there's like an inside bit that you and Mary Jo have, and I'm not doing it, I don't want you to think that Mary Jo's a jerk. It's just me. I'm not Mary Jo. And he was like, oh my God, of course you're not Mary Jo. But I didn't realize, oh, hey, nice to meet you. I was like, yeah, it'll be fun working with you. And then he left, and all the makeup and hair people were like, yes, we did our job because you look so similar. That wasn't even the story I was gonna tell, friends. No, when we were recording the opening, I remember like we were off camera, and Patton and I, while we didn't have to push anything, we had to walk a certain way, and then they wanted us to spin, and then we said our la la las. And Patton was just like, hey, Rebecca, can you like walk through this with me, and how are you gonna turn, and can I do what you're doing? And I was like, yeah, you can do whatever. I mean, I just was like such an idiot about everything. So I was like, yeah, I'll probably like turn to my right. So maybe if you want to pivot out, we'll like spin around, and like, we did our real light choreo. As the music was playing and I saw the camera like zoom in on me to do the la la las, I got really emotional because it was the first day that Tim and Zach were on set, and everyone was there, and we were hearing the music, and I was like, pardon me, I'm gonna swear, I was like, holy shit, all my dreams are coming true. I can't handle this. It's too nice, but keep it together, because if you ruin this take, we are all going to have to start over, and everyone's going to know that you're a human person with emotions, and that would be the worst. So that day was really special. And then when I got to meet Mark Hamill on set was amazing.
Yeah, that picture of the two of you is you're just beaming.
It was very lovely. And I owe that all to Ivan Asquith.
We love Ivan.
Ivan is a saint, a prince, a king, a mensch. He came up to me after Mark had finished his bit as PT Mind Slap, and which we all were trying to watch, and then our first AD kicked us all out of the small studio, and we had to watch on monitors because all of us were like, Luke Skywalker, some people are the Joker, he's Luke Skywalker, but we were all like clamoring around, and she was not having it with us. But Ivan asked me if I wanted to go meet him. And I will say this, I had my own dressing room until Mark Hamill showed up. And then I had to give him my dressing room. And I allowed it. But Ivan was like, would you like to meet Mark Hamill? And I said, well, of course I would love to, but only if he's accepting people. Like, do not ask, especially for me. And Ivan was like, you're part of the show, I'm gonna ask. And I was like, ugh. So, and also Ivan knows Mark because he's friends with his daughter. Anyway, I went back to my former dressing room, which is now Mark Hamill's dressing room. And Ivan said, hey, Mark, I would like to introduce you to the voice of Gypsy. This is Rebecca. And Mark stood up and said, finally, Gypsy's going to be voiced by a woman. It's about time. And I was like, so I was like, yeah. And I can't remember. Ivan was like, can I get a picture of Mark, you with Rebecca? And Mark was like, oh, I'd be delighted. And so he stood up and he put his arm around me, and I was just like, huh. And then right before the picture, he like touched he did this little face touch, which normally I don't care for my face being touched, but if it's freaking Mark Hamill, you do it. And it was such a surprise. So like we took our pictures, and while we were there, I said, Mr. Hamill, is it okay if I just hug you? And he said, as long as you call me Mark. And I said, I'm going in, Mark. And I just gave him a hug. And then I turned into a Jedi, and I was outlined in blue, and I floated out of the dressing room. And there are other Mark Hamill stories that I don't know if I'm at liberty to say, but meeting Mark Hamill was one of the coolest things ever in life. And he is just as delightful and sweet as you would ever hope for him to be. So those are two of the highlights for me.
That is amazing. Oh, that's so cool. So cool. Chris, I think you have a question, right?
Yes, I have a question for Rebecca. You actually already answered part of this. You said that Joel had already had a thought for having a clone on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So how, was he already thinking Pearl? Or was it when he saw you, it's like, okay, this kind of answers that. Here's Pearl's clone. And once that was decided, how much input did you have into Cynthia? Was that kind of a you and Joel sitting down, or was Joel like, okay, you're Cynthia, do what you do?
That's Great. I think Joel was always, I think from kind of what I can gather, once he knew season 11 was a go, Joel has always wanted to have like a touring show. And I think he was trying to think of some connective way to have a Mad on the road who maybe isn't necessarily a name. And I know he and Mary Jo, just people are very close and friends. And I think maybe he was probably hoping that Mary Jo would maybe be on the road with us. Again, I don't know fully. He has always, like, he's said to me pretty much once he asked me about being a clone and being Mary Jo's clone, I think because we have similar faces, which I didn't really realize, and we do, but we really do once the makeup's on. But anyway,
one of the skills that Joel prides himself
Yeah.
on is facial recognition and facial resemblance.
Yeah.
I think it helps a lot with those riffs where it's like this person in this thing has this,
as
you know,
this
those.
thing.
So he's very good at spotting people and who they look like.
Yeah.
And so when he met Rebecca, I think it maybe sparked
Like,
a little idea in
clicked,
his brain,
yeah.
like, oh, these two could probably look alike.
Yeah. And at that point he knew, he hadn't seen me perform yet, but he knew that I, you know, was an improviser and actor and blah, blah, blah. So Cynthia happened. He did have Cynthia's name when he asked me if I wanted to be a clone. He said you'd be a clone and you'd be Cynthia Forrester. But you know, it's spelled Synthia. And I was like, cool, Joel, you know, sure, everyone's gonna freak out over that. So when we shot season 11, there wasn't, I think at that point, there wasn't a ton of thought behind her. She was just kind of a clone starting out. I also, being on set, especially like Kinga's wedding was one of the first things we shot. And one of the first things we did as me as Cynthia, like we shot the opening and then we shot the wedding scene. So me literally standing across from Mary Jo, or was I next to her? I can't remember. And you know, we've got Kevin and Bill all done up, like here I am with all my comedy heroes. And it's one of the first things we're shooting. And I just decided, because I wasn't given a ton of direction, I was literally gonna mirror everything Mary Jo did. I tested a couple different awkward hugs on Joel, with his permission, with his consent. And he liked the hug that we ended up doing. I had a couple different awkward hugs, friends, don't worry. But yeah, he liked that one that we ended up doing. And yeah, like I didn't know Felicia at all at that point. And for me to be like, hi, I'm gonna hug you in a really weird way. Do you want me to practice on you first so you're not creeped out? Was a real nice way to meet someone. So yeah, at first there wasn't a ton of thought, I think, to Cynthia for 11 because everything was coming together. And then once we were on the road, for that first tour, for the Watch Out for Snakes tour, that's when I think Joel got to see me more in front of a live audience. And Cynthia in front of a live audience is really different than that. So when we went into writing and developing season 12, that's when he came up with Algernon, and he wanted Cynthia to kind of free up a little bit more, and took a little bit of what I did with her on the road to that. And she's still pretty contained on camera. And then for the 30th anniversary tour, it was really great because he's like, guess what? Cynthia's going to host the show. And I was like, heck yeah, that'd be great. You know, and it was really fun. So started out with Joel. He's kind of taken my input. I have ideas for Cynthia that I don't know if Joel even knows about. And yeah, it has been a bit of a collaboration, but I always will defer to what Joel wants. So again, lengthy answer. Thank you.
And you were a wonderful host for the live tour. That was so much fun. And especially the interactions with the audience and everything. That was super cool. I think Brian, do you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have a video. I'm just on my desktop.
Okay.
This is for Tim. And I'm not sure how much you know about this, but you're also a bonehead, if I guess we could use that term now. So obviously one of the big kind of changes, the big pieces that they put in with season 11 was the Bone ska band. How did that come about? Because that's kind of a big I would say almost, I mean, music's always been a part of, MST3K, but having, a band playing these ska riffs, in the quote unquote commercial breaks is kind of a weird out of left field thing. So how'd that come about?
It came about because there's no such thing as too much ska. Everyone, it's coming back.
Here.
Did it ever leave?
It never left.
It never left this house.
Here's the thing. I was in a high school band in the late 90s, and so being in a ska band was the only dream I had of being a rock star. So I love it. It came about, this was a creative decision that was above my head at the time. Yeah. But from what I know, I think the idea that Joel had for Kinga as the new Mad was that everything was about branding and media domination and conquering the world through media. So everything needed to be a little sharper and glossier and a little bigger. And so what's bigger than having a band play you in and out of commercial breaks for this show? So that was part of it. And then when they got Harmar Superstar to do the opening theme, I think that sort of solidified the whole aesthetic of there's a band and there's a singer. And
there was also like a late night talk show element that no one ever saw, but there was a set built for it. If any of you were on set for that, like there was a whole section of the studio that we ended up not using. But I don't know if Kinga was going to have like a late night talk show. And so I think that band was also, like how the roots are for Jimmy Fallon, or we'll take it back to Doc Severinsen. So I think there was that aspect.
Yeah.
That part of that wasn't kept, but the band was. And also the band just looked really cool.
Yeah. They did look really cool. Although it always makes me...
You're not in the band though.
I'm not in the band. Everyone asks me like, what instrument do you play? I'm like, nope, that's not me. I'm the guy pulling the lever.
Yeah.
But it always makes me laugh to see, especially the saxophonist and the trumpeter trying to play, but they're still wearing the helmets. And there's no way that the mouthpiece can get to their mouth, but they're still playing along. It's delightful.
Well, Harmar Superstar didn't have the helmet. That was the easy way around that for him, at least.
Right.
Yeah.
And that answer was so bad that Deanna left.
Her power went out. She's powerless at this moment. So
wow.
So I get to take over. So that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just fine. So
Space Ghost, nice. Whoever made the Space Ghost comment, really great. Sorry, reading the comments too.
So there's so many things that you brought up in the last few minutes that I need to follow up with. Yeah. Tell me, is Patton Oswalt as nice as he seems?
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He was such a huge fan.
Oh, God, yeah.
He was just like a little fanboy.
He was, I think everyone had the same experience, especially for season 11. Like when you walk on set and you saw the desk in real life, and then you see all the little components that they've had, like it's pretty mind-blowing. Patton, unfortunately, like in season 11, he was sick and you never would have known it. But he like had this horrible either head cold or maybe even borderline strep. So he, like the second he'd be done, he'd like be popping lozenges and he had like Kleenex. But the second the cameras were on, he was phenomenal. So yeah, like he was fun, real fun to work with, real fun to watch. And then during 12, it was fun because we all kind of knew each other a little bit better. And I felt a little more comfortable being able to like do some bits with him, which was fun. And like he and Felicia together are just ridiculous. So yeah, Patton, I mean, he's an encyclopedia, and I feel like I could just sit at his feet and listen all day, but he mostly like reads in between takes. He's like pretty quiet. And then, camera's on, and then he'll put his character shoes on. Like literally he'll like pop out of his character shoes the second that he doesn't have to be in them, which I was jealous of because I'm not taller than Patton, but they have me in these really tall boots. So I look taller than Patton in all the scenes. So he kind of is quiet, but he's such a huge fan of the show, and he's really, really lovely.
I just remember, one night after we were finished shooting, I'm washing my Bonehead makeup off, so it's just a bleeding black and white mess on my face. and he's leaving sort of the dressing room at the same time, and he's walking out to the parking lot, and he sees like Mary Jo's there and Bill and Kevin and walking. He left the set and he literally just said like, "I'm so happy." And it was so earnest and sweet. It's like, yeah, this really means a lot to him,
Yeah.
as it does to so many people who were there.
And like one night after 12, I remember it was some of us were leaving the lot. He was just like high-fiving all of us. He's like, "Way to go, Cynthia!" And it's just like, "Thank you, Mr. Oswald." So yeah, he's great. I was able to do one Q&A with him, and just to listen to him and Matt, his brother, like, my God, like they're such fans of the show. And I got to work with Matt a little bit when we wrote on Mac and Me. So it's just cool to see like their history, just not only with comedy, but with MST3K. It's great.
I guess Zach, let me get you. He has a comment about Patton. So go ahead and ask you to unmute.
Well, Deanna, during mine, you asked about how we got the names Ricky and Tim was Terry the Bonehead. There's a segment for the live show that we shot with Patton where Felicia goes, "The Boneheads have names now? That's ridiculous. Now, which one's Ricky?" And Patton's like, "Oh, the little guy, he's about this tall. Come on over here, whatever." But the take they threw away was my favorite. And he goes, "Here, let's try it this way." And so we go back to one. He's like, "It's Ricky. Ricky, come here, boy. Come here, Ricky." And I just like bowed over to him. And I wish they'd kept that one because it was really funny.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Sorry about my power outage.
Okay.
Woo!
Are you okay?
Yeah, no, everything, it turned on and back off again or whatnot. So, Gabriel from Bayshore, New York. This is for you, Rebecca. And Tim, I mean, you're both here. We might as well hear both your opinions. What is a movie you think is completely unriffable?
Oh,
I mean, I'm going to say this. I'll tell you this. Cry Wilderness was the first movie I wrote on. And as I was watching, I didn't know my writing process for that yet. So both Tim and I, we decided to watch it together just on the TV.
yes.
Just to see it.
Just to get like an overall sense of it.
Because we were like, oh boy, the way we wrote, we should probably, like, we thought there was a real procedure to how to write riffs. There's not, but we didn't know that. So we watched it together. And when it was done, I was like, I don't think this is,
It's not possible.
This is not gonna happen.
It's too weird.
Everyone is going to, like, everyone who contributed to Kickstarter is gonna hate this so much. How do we even fix this? What is possible? And then like the first week into writing it, I still felt that way of like, this is terrible. So I feel like all of them are unriffable, especially after you watch them for how many times?
Everything's unriffable until it gets riffed.
Until it gets riffed, yeah.
So I would say that
What movie?
I don't think anything is unriffable. It's just a challenge of how do you make it. Like, I would say that Schindler's List would be a pretty tricky one to try and make funny. But
Yeah,
could it be done? Probably. If you have really terrible people watching.
Yeah.
Rob Maynard, How Dare You Bring Up Josie and the Pussycats. It's the most amazing movie of all time. And it's very good.
You must be referring to your involvement with Reels of Justice.
That was my episode of Reels of Justice where I successfully defended that movie. It's amazing.
Congratulations on your win. Congratulations.
Yes, Phantom. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's very true.
Right. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. So that's the best answer I can give. All of them seem just unriffable, and then you get through them, and then they turn out even better than you. Again, I'm real surprised that Cry Wilderness turned out as well as it did because.
And it's a fan favorite from season 11. People absolutely. I would say 75% of the people have said that I've come across that Cry Wilderness is one of their favorites.
Yeah, and you know what?
So many, repeatable riffs that you can use throughout your daily life.
Yeah.
So, and so I feel bad for anybody named Paul.
Oh yeah.
There was a Paul. There was a Paul on set.
Well,
Paul Saborin of Paul and Storm. And every time we needed him, you know how we called him.
Paul,
get over here.
Paul. And then Jonah in the raccoon sketch when Jonah's just like, Paul, get in here. Like, that kills me every single time. Every time he did it, like, yeah. So yeah, and I still will tweet at Paul. Even the other day, I'll always tweet that at Paul, like, Paul, get in here.
Yeah. So that's great. Steve, did you have another question?
I have a question about the live show, the live tour going across the country in a bus. How different was that show at each stop?
That's a good question. It was a constantly changing show, not hugely,
Yeah.
but it was constantly evolving in terms of, especially during the riffing, we'd figure out, oh, this one's not getting any laughs. Let's take it out. Oh, this one gets too big of a laugh.
Yeah.
So it covers up the setup for my next thing. So I either have to change that or take it out. So it was a constantly refining process. And then.
But I feel like we as a cast really wanted, for the sake of the fans, to keep it as similar from city to city, because we wanted people to have a similar experience. I mean, with live theater, things are always going to change a little bit from night to night and city to city, which is cool. But
right.
Yeah, we were like really committed to making sure that we did it as closely each night. Now, sometimes Joel would go a little rogue, especially in the second tour when he was on stage more as Joel Robinson. That would always be like, what's going to be said or not said tonight, and how do we juggle it?
Joel's a tinkerer. He always
He's
likes,
always wanting to change. Yeah.
Like, even if something's working perfectly well, he'll be like, what if we change this little bit? Or what if we
And
try
we're like,
something
no,
different?
we finally said it. Let's keep it.
Yeah, he loves to change things.
I will say the first time we ever did Argo Man for the Watch Out for Snakes tour, the first time we did Argo Man live was the first time we ever did it in its entirety like that. So I remember Gypsy missed like a cue because I didn't have a script. Like the puppeteers get to just read everything the whole show. This one doesn't. So I had things memorized and I had a quick change and all this stuff. So I remember like the first maybe 2 times we did Argo Man, it was very different than the end of the tour because I had to learn where to be and what to say at certain times and just figure it out for myself.
And then it changes because of the audience. You know, the audience in each city is going to react differently. They're going to laugh at different jokes.
Yeah.
Certain regional things hit differently depending on where you are in the country. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And it keeps it really fun too for us. Sometimes, you know, you get a line that's got nothing and all of a sudden in Tallahassee it hits big and you're like, why here? Why?
But why not? And thank you.
Why?
Yeah.
But that's what makes it really fun for us.
And it definitely makes sitting through those horrible movies at night after night after night. Like I will never watch The Brain again ever unless I'm paid to. And EGOT too is a rough one, but it makes it a lot easier to endure those movies for 6 solid weeks because the audience is so like hearing the audience's reaction is just great.
All right, I have a very specific moment that this is the nerdiest question I'm going to ask all night. Rebecca, you were on stage in the second tour here in Chicago, nearing the end of the tour, and there was a moment where Gypsy had something to say, and you were turning away to pretend to not be Gypsy at the moment, and I think you cracked up. Do you remember that moment?
I mean, that was the second to last night of tour.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first time being back in Chicago since we had moved. So there were a lot of emotions. I do remember at some point that night, we all thought maybe Joel was literally having a stroke on stage. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember what he did.
He kept saying the same thing. There was a little kid in the front row that he kept referring to. And he kept repeating that same thing over and over again. And you said out loud, "Are you okay, Joel?"
Like, yeah, because there was something like, I remember Jonah was looking at me like, this is when Jonah and I were the only humans who could see each other. Like we knew that Grant and Tim were underneath, but we can't see them. And I remember Jonah and I checking in like, oh God, how are we going to handle, like, do we let the audience see Joel have a stroke? Is he really having a stroke? Like, what do we do? What's the safest thing? Yeah, and I'll say that I kind of had to fight for that bit for Gypsy to even be in the movie. Because Joel at first didn't think that Cynthia and Gypsy could exist together. So Gypsy wasn't even originally part of the tour. And I was like, we need her. We got to see her. And like, I think the audience will be on board if Cynthia turns around. And, like, why not? Joel always says that this is a show where you can see the cracks. You can, that's part of the beauty of it. So yeah, I just remember that night in Chicago because that was the second show too. And we were at the Athenaeum that year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the Athenaeum. Yeah, Joel had some sort of like minor stroke, and like to the point where I had to, like, just as a person, as Rebecca, be like, Joel Hodgson, are you okay? Not Joel Robinson, are you? Yeah. So I remember that, but I don't remember super specifically. But we also were at the tail end of the tour where I was like fighting to just keep the show together. And since it was like, and it was a hometown audience, and I knew half the audience, I think we were just like, yeah,
We're all just having a good time.
as long as Joel stays alive, we're all good. And he did, and he still is.
Yes, and we are all very happy that he is still with us.
Yes.
Now, speaking of the tour, Tim, you were Servo. Had you been a puppeteer before?
No, nothing more than a
Hand
show
puppet?
at like church camp. Yeah. Yeah, nothing professional in any way. And I'm puppeteering with, at first Hampton and then Grant, who's a Henson trained professional puppeteer.
Yeah.
So I really have my work cut out for me. I had a few advantages going in, one of which is that Tom Servo is a very simple puppet. He basically looks and he opens his mouth, and you use a trigger finger to do that. And that's about it. But thankfully, he comes imbued with a lot of history and personality, just so that when people see that little gumball, he already has a personality and a real sense of
A gravitas,
a classiness as who that character is. So I really had some good advantages. I will say, and this is a bit of a self-brag, that I did something that Grant, as a puppeteer, said was very difficult, which was that under the desk for the host segments, I was using my right hand to puppeteer
And you're
look
right-handed.
around, and I am right-handed. But then when we went around behind the screen to the silhouettes, I had to do it left-handed, just because of how the set was positioned and how the actors were. And so I did some ambidextrous puppeteering, which Grant said is not easy, but I was able to do it. So
Next stop, the Muppet Sesame Street.
I'm
Exactly.
sure it's just as simple.
The first tour, Joel initially wanted Tim to be a bonehead and be Tom Servo at the same time. And we were like, how?
Talk about turning upstage and doing voices. That would have been a real mess.
How can we navigate that? So it was finally like agreed upon that Grant was a bonehead the first tour and helped with some puppeteering and helped me handle Gypsy, the road puppet, not GPC, but Gypsy is a 2-person thing because she's just real top heavy. She's clunky. So 2 people always have to handle her. So Tim was, at that point you were Summer Servo or
Right.
Malibu Servo. And then Grant was the puppet.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's so cool too, that you got to learn a new skill as part of this job.
Yeah, I basically picked up Servo for the first time at our first dress rehearsal. So it was a really like pick it up on the fly, thrown into the deep end of the pool situation.
Crash course.
Yeah.
Well, I guess when I asked that question, Rob was going to ask that exact same question. So sorry for stealing your question, Rob. Hey, Chris, you want to ask one of the inevitable questions that we must ask Gypsy, since we have her here.
Okay. What exactly is in that bucket when you lower that into the theater? I mean, it was great. I love seeing Gypsy come into the theater. That's always good. But
It's
what's
always
in the
good.
bucket?
When Joel Hodgson said that Gypsy was going to be riffing, I was like, great, this is even cooler. Wow, yay. And I saw, like, when we do the drops, it's just these very crude mock-ups. So she was going up and down, and I don't think I didn't see the finished thing until the Chicago premiere. And Joel answered that night. He said, "Oh, Gypsy it's the payload." And even later, I was like, "What? Okay, so maybe on the road we're going to answer this question, or maybe in season 12 we're going to answer the question, or maybe in the next road tour we're going to answer the question. If there's another season, are we going to?" It's the payload. I think
Payload.
at one point he did say, "Oh, Rebecca, you don't have you don't have to ask so many questions. Just let it be. And I was like, hey man, I'm cool with letting it be, but I feel like a real jerk. People are tweeting this at me and I'm like, it's the payload. So that's the only answer that's ever been uttered. I think he was just looking for a way. I think he had to justify Gypsy coming in and out.
Yeah, it's just a device.
And you know, this whole time I've just been like, Gypsy can just be, but I think, you know, it was again, yeah.
At this point, it's become its own bit and its own mythology. Like, it's the payload.
Yeah.
The payload is the payload. Payload is payload.
Payload is payload, yeah. So that was the answer given to me, and I've never been given any other answer. So, yeah.
Well, then now, you know, we hear, you know, from Gypsy herself.
Gypsy.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the payload, it is what it is. And yeah, I like how he
You know,
said,
just let it be a payload, man.
that's a
Yeah.
very Joel answer. You know, just
Uh-huh.
don't ask so many questions. Steve, you have one more question?
One more question. How is California? Do they have any pizza?
Here's the thing. No, they do not.
There is pizza here. Is it anything special?
There
No.
are just a few things that we have found incredibly difficult to replace.
Yeah,
And one of them is our normal pizza.
and we're
Can
not
we
a.
just ship you some stuff?
Well, here's the thing.
Here's-
We're not a deep dish family. Like,
No,
the thing,
absolutely not.
like deep
That's
dish
not
stuffed
pizza.
crust. Right. That's
It's great.
That's what tourists get when they go to Chicago,
Correct.
and that's fine and great and lovely for like once a year when you
Yeah.
have people come in and visit you. Get some deep dish, get some stuffed crust, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not like on a Sunday night. If we want to order something and we want pizza, that's not what we're gonna order.
So what do I need to ship you?
Well, we would.
Just your good thoughts.
Yeah.
No, like I personally am partial to Chicago's pizza. Like that's
That's the name of the place.
That's the name
It's
of the place,
Chicago's
is
Pizza.
Chicago's. There are a handful of them throughout the city. And while they ship their stuffed pizza or their what is the other name for it? Is it just deep dish?
Deep
or
dish
stuffed?
or
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
They don't ship their like thin, and it's not a super thin crust, but they don't ship their thin. Like they only ship out, you know, because that's what the tourists want. So yeah, there's pizza out here. I mean, there's Domino's.
Ugh.
There's Fresh Brothers, which has been like an okay thing,
Pretty good.
but yeah, it's real. The pizza situation out here is real sad, but it kind of is sad throughout a lot of the country. You know, you can't beat Chicago and their pizza options. So
Chicago's
I think-
was open till like 4 a.m.
heck yeah.
You can get it delivered no matter what. It was great.
Oh, that night of the second Chicago or the second tour we were on of the Chicago show, maybe part of the reason Joel had part of that stroke was I had asked our tour manager if we could get pizza from Chicago's, and he got it for us. And I went down the street to have it for lunch that day. And then I had it for dinner and our mid-show snack. So like I just loaded up on the cheese thin pizza. So maybe that was part of Joel's meltdown, as he had good pizza for the first time in a while.
You almost killed Joel with good pizza. First
There's no way
time.
to go.
What a way to go.
I mean, if I had to pick a way to go, that's what I would do. So yeah, thank you for that question. As a Chicagoan, I appreciate you understanding our plight out here.
I think we lost the entire audience, though. I think I asked that question, and the rest of the audience went, "No, there's pizza everywhere. What are you talking about?" No, guys, you don't understand.
You don't get it.
need to come to Chicago and have real pizza.
Jamie, can we hear you? Yes, maybe. She's got a question for y'all. I tried to unmute her.
There is a Geno's East out here. I'm seeing it. There is a Geno's East open out here, and we had it delivered like in April, and it was not cooked all the way.
Yeah.
It was
It's a
unfortunate.
bit of a disappointment.
And Geno's East is pretty good. Again, it's not one of my top Chicago choices, but it is good in a pinch.
Yeah.
So we have to get the thin. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments.
And then while we're waiting,
Yeah.
Timothy wants to know where in Iowa you went to
Oh,
college.
I went to college in Iowa at a very small college called Northwestern College. Whoa, there's one of my college friends right now.
Hey, Jason.
Called Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa. It is a Dutch community. There are windmills. The bank is a huge windmill in the town of Orange City, and Main Street looks like, you know, Main Street USA of any like amusement park you go to. A lot of like the Pizza Hut had a Dutch front. So I went to a little college called Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa, with Jason, who's my friend right there. He's waving.
Hello, Jason. Welcome. We're still waiting on Jamie, and that's fine. In fact, I'll go ahead and ask what was going to be the last follow-up question. Favorite episodes from the original run and your favorite episode from season 11 and 12. For obviously the question for both of you.
Sure.
I will go first. So
Yeah.
my Joel episodes are I Accuse My Parents and Mitchell. My Mike episodes are This Island Earth. I love the movie. I know sometimes the movie gets a bad rap, but boy, I have that thing memorized. It is one of my favorites. Also, The Thing That Couldn't Die and Revenge of the Creature.
Ooh.
And then for Jonah, I love the two that were played as part of the marathon yesterday, like Cry Wilderness and Carnival of Magic. I love those two. And then from season 12, Avalanche is great.
Season 12, that's 11. Avalanche is 11.
Oh, is it? That's right. Avalanche is great. But then season 12, Mac and Me, I think is like first ballot Hall of Famer for me, like of all time.
Whoa, really? Mac and Me out of all of them?
I think so.
Let's see. My Joel episodes, yeah. Damn it, Mitchell. Like Mitchell again and again, Mitchell. It's just hard to beat. It's hard to beat. Of Mike, and I accuse my parents too. Mike, I'm a sucker for Angel's Revenge. It's one of my favorite movies. I know a lot of people, I love it. And I think part of the reason is Jason saying yes, like it is one that we watched quite a bit in college, probably because, so my friend Jason, his dad would record episodes for us and then send them to us, and we would watch them on VHS tapes, like on weekends where we didn't have shows. Because I was a theater major. And so like, Angel's Revenge was just one of those episodes we had, so we would watch it a lot. And I do love Kitten with a Whip. I mean, come on.
That's right. And Margaret.
I love Anne Margaret. And then let's see. Cry Wilderness, surprisingly, is really great. Carnival Magic, after watching that again yesterday, I forgot how great that is. It's so, oof. And I mean, I kind of love, I won't say that. And then, honestly, Mac and Me was probably one of my favorites because I find in season 12, I was able to write sketches. And I wrote the McDonald's, the Jonah McDonough sketch. And while it changed a little bit from what I wrote, a lot of it did still stay the same. And I came up with Jonah McDonough, and I thought Elliot was maybe going to fire me. And he said, no, I'm just mad that I didn't come up with that name first. But Hampton could not pronounce Jonah McDonough. He didn't get it. And so it was really funny as we were recording that sketch. He was like, Jonah McDonough. And they're like, no, it's McDonough. It rhymes like Ronald McDonald. And he's like, I don't get it. Yeah, it's just really funny that Hampton just couldn't grasp onto that. So yeah, I think Mac and Me would probably be of season 12.
All right. Jamie, did we get you?
Can you hear me? Do we have sound?
Yes. Hi, Jamie.
Oh, bless. Hallelujah. Hi. I miss your faces.
We miss you too.
Oh my God. It's been like the longest. March has gone on forever, guys. What the heck? My question was, in the middle of a pandemic, especially right now, what other projects, what do you have going on right now? Is writing, producing anything? Have you got some stuff like in the hopper, so to speak, to look forward to maybe by next year? Because I'm concerned about everybody. I just want to make sure everybody's happily working some way or another.
Thank you, Jamie, for your concern.
Sure.
That's very sweet.
Yes.
No, we don't.
No. That's why the Turkey Day thing was so fun, because it was work. Like, it was only a day's work for me, but Tim and Matt wrote it for about a week.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really fun to do that. Tim, that was like a week for you.
Yeah. We had daily Zoom calls where we would go back and forth on scripts and brainstorm ideas and whatnot.
And I didn't see any of the scripts until the night before we were doing stuff. So like it was a real fun surprise to see what Matt and Tim came up with. No, I mean it's really strange. I'm not feeling super creative, to be honest with you. Like it's kind of a weird time for me. It's nice, people have asked us to do a couple things and, we'll do storytelling shows or maybe a podcast here and there, but neither of us.
There's just not a ton of stuff in production right now.
And
so
it's
not like we have a ton of auditions and whatnot.
Auditions are kind of happening, but then, a lot of testing. Yeah, there's not a lot going on.
Yeah, so I'm like working on a couple spec scripts just to have writing samples. But
I mean, I've done a lot of tie-dyeing, but like, hey.
That's right.
We've all been doing a lot of crafting, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. But like, there's really no cool, exciting, fun answer. I preferred, doing comedy live or maybe improvising, or even I thought maybe I would try to do some stand-up this year, but like that's not happening. And I'm not going to do a stand-up show on Zoom. Sorry, unless we're still in this predicament in like 7 months, and I'll be like, hey, is this thing on? Anyone want to watch Rebecca? Try not to watch yourself on camera telling jokes.
You can turn your self view off, so you don't have to look at yourself.
Right. So yeah, and but we are fine and we are good.
Yeah.
And we're very thankful to live where we are and all that fun stuff. But there's nothing of note to report right now.
Well, we'll keep our eyes, of course, on your social media pages, and just keep us in the know what might be coming down. So. Sure. We have been here for an hour. Thank you very much for joining us, Tim and Rebecca. Again, this meetup is completely different than how it started 5 years ago. And but this way, even more people get to be involved and get to see your beautiful faces and ask you cool questions. So thank you again for doing all of this.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. The hour's flown by. It's been super fun. Thank you for all your questions. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out.
And for as long as we couldn't talk about things, it's so nice to be able to talk about them now, even 4 years later. Like, I think you could get all of us on for like 3 hours and we'd be really happy to talk.
Well, I'm telling you, we may have to have a Misty Christmas and do some more.
I've been asking for 4 years. I've been asking Ivan for a convention. We need to get together when we're able to get together and do a Mystery Science Theater convention. We could invite Jackie from Manos, The Hands of Fate. We could have all the actors from all the movies. It would write itself.
Yeah.
That would be good times.
We just need like a day full of Bees McKeever too. Like, can I just say that?
Right.
Oh, well, then you will want to be sure you tune in tonight to the RiffTrax trivia. I have a great video from Bees and Miss Edna that they have submitted for us to show. And she sings a great song. So if you can't make it in tonight, I am going to share the videos afterwards.
That's great. She's the best.
Yeah,
she's so lovely.
She's so great. Yeah.
She is. All right. Well, we're going to sign off here. Virtual happy hour is about to happen over on the Discord. Thanks to the MST3K drinking group. Tim and Stina over there are going to take care of that for me. And then we'll be back here in an hour for that RiffTrax trivia. And for those of you who are participating, please be in the room by 7:30 so I can assign you to teams. If you come in after 7:30, you just have to watch. Sorry, but them's the rules. So
strict.
Hey, captain's got to be that way sometimes. Again, thank you, Tim and Rebecca. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in about an hour.
Bye.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Thank you, Rebecca and Tim.
Thank you.
That's great.
I just pinged Dina to come and actually stop the meeting because she forgot again.